Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're talking about bad spells. Spells that simply don't deliver on the fantasy that they promise, or that have such a niche use case that a spellcaster choosing them is probably making a mistake, unless they are in a very specific situation. Today we're talking about the Ranger. Rangers get their spells at level 2, and we're talking about their first level spells. So these are the spells that a brand new Ranger is going to be learning. And Ranger spellcasting is a bit of a sleeping win. See, there's loads of Ranger spells that add damage, utility, wonderful powers to this Ranger. Rangers are already one of the coolest classes out there because they're very, very much like fighters in the sense that they have all the martial capabilities, everything but heavy armor, basically, and some fantastic skill powers like rogues. But they also have magic. However, that magic could get wasted if they choose the wrong spells. And I've prepared a top 5 list, or should I say a bottom 5 list, of spells that I think if a ranger takes these, they're probably wasting their efforts. But before we get to the list, I'd like to let you know that Relax Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can join me here on YouTube. You click the join button just below the video. You pay $1 a month and you get a couple benefits. You get a badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know that you're a supporter, earning you my undying gratitude. You also get early access to my videos. I upload videos every other day, and I upload videos a day before they go public, and members get to see them the minute that they're uploaded. So for those who can support the channel, you can get an early access to every video I upload. For those who cannot or don't want to support, that's okay. The channel is still going to be uploading, and you'll get the videos at the regular intervals like you always have. Thank you for watching, thank you for supporting, and joining me here on YouTube. So, Ranger spells. First one, easy one, the Alarm spell. Alarm is a spell that has a very strange use case behind it that I feel was designed without really understanding the scope of D&D. Alarm designates either an opening, like a door or a window, or a 20-foot cube area, so it can cover a decent space. The space is magically alarmed, so if a creature other than your party, so someone that you didn't designate when you cast it, enters the area, it can do one of two things. It can either make a loud sound, like a bell going off, which will wake up everybody in the area, or it can be a silent alarm that you hear in your mind. Either way, it'll wake you up from sleep. Alarm makes sense if you assume that the entire party has to sleep at night. However, there's a couple problems with this. First of all, several races in the game don't need to sleep or only need to meditate, the elven, trance, for example, so they remain conscious or at least semi-conscious. Secondly, in order to take a long rest, you only have to sleep 6 hours of the 8 that you spend resting, meaning that you can, if you have a party of 3 or 4, rotate through individuals and have a guard, which is what most parties do when they rest. All in all, the alarm spell feels like it isn't really necessary. Now, it'd be cool if you could set it up at like a secure location, go adventuring, and then one day you just hear an alarm go off and you know that someone's broken into your vault or whatever. But the spell only lasts 8 hours and has a range of 1 mile if you set up an area like that. So it could be helpful in certain situations to keep an area secure, but it just feels like it's gone way too far and isn't necessary 99% of the time. Then, my next spell on the list, Beast Bond. Beast Bond sounds rangery. You have a friendly creature. This would be real great with a Beastmaster Ranger, right? And if the creature's friendly to you, you can cast Beast Bond on them, and for the next 10 minutes with your concentration, you can see through the beast's eyes, allowing you to use them as a scout. They can communicate telepathically with you, And they gain advantage if they're within 5 feet of an ally. So it kind of grants them an automatic pack tactics. Here's the thing. Most summoning spells already have the ability to communicate with you telepathically, and Rangers learn Summon Beast in a couple levels. Not to mention, the Find Familiar spell, if you pick it up with Magic Initiate or something, can do this infinitely better, because it doesn't last 10 minutes, it lasts forever. And you have to have a friendly beast, meaning that if you don't have one, you'd have to cast Animal Friendship on a creature and then cast Beast Bond, doubling up your spell necessity, all so that you can just see what they see and communicate with them. Like, if you're trying to get information, Speak with Animals would certainly work much better. And Rangers get that automatically as a learned spell. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's delivering because there are so many better ways to accomplish this. If you're scouting, Rangers are already great at that. They don't need a beast to help them. If they want a beast to help them, Find Familiar and Summon Beast are just better options that last longer and work in other situations like combat. This just doesn't feel like it's worth anything. So yeah, I would say don't take Beast Bond. Another spell I wouldn't recommend taking, Jump. Jump seems like a cool spell. You cast it on yourself or on another creature, and their jump distance is tripled for a minute. No concentration either. The thing is that jumping has a very strange rule set in D&D. You can make a long jump, you run 10 feet, and then you jump a number equal to your strength modifier. So you can clear a gap or jump over a hole or something. That's cool. But it uses your movement speed to do so. It says very specifically in jumping rules that you cannot jump further than your movement speed allows. So if your movement speed is 30 feet, you can jump 30 feet, even if your strength score would allow you to jump further. This is to stop people from going faster than their move speed by jumping all the time. The jump spell triples your jump distance, but doesn't alleviate this limitation. So if you have a jumping speed, let's say you're a strength-based ranger, and you've got a jump distance of 20 feet with a 10-foot run-up, now you can triple that to 60 feet, which is 40 feet further than you would be able to move anyway. Your jump will just stop. You will not actually get any use out of this. And then there's high jumps. You can jump 3 feet plus your strength modifier. So again, if you're a strength-based ranger with a strength of 20, you can jump 8 feet straight in the air. This turns that to 24 feet, which still uses your movement, weirdly enough. So even if you did that and climbed up on top of a ledge, then you'd have 5 feet of movement speed left. It just... I can see specific situations this would be helpful. Or, you could just run. Or climb. Or cast Misty Step if you know it. There's so many other ways to get around, and the jump spell just doesn't give... If it made it so you could triple your jump distance and ignore the movement speed limitations of jumping, then this would be great. You could basically double your movement speed every turn. But it doesn't do that. It just means you can jump a little further while still keeping within your limitations. So don't take it. It's not worth it. Another spell that is interestingly on the Ranger spell list, this is a Smite spell. They pilfered this from Paladins. It's called Searing Smite. Searing Smite allows you to apply it. You cast it as a bonus action and concentrate on it for a minute. The next attack you make will deal an extra 1d6 fire damage against a Constitution save, which is a rough save to target. And if they fail it, they are now on fire. They repeat the con save while they're on fire, and if they fail, they take another 1d6 damage. They can also use an action to just put the fire out, or another creature can use an action to put the fire out. Now, on paper, this kind of sounds cool, like you're adding an extra d6 of damage to an attack, and it lasts. But the con save is tough, and they can just use an action to put the fire out if they really want to, and a d6 of damage isn't that much, especially if you're concentrating on it. Like, Hunter's Mark, is a d6 of damage that you apply as a bonus action, but it applies to every attack you make, not just one, with then a lasting effect that can be put away using a simple saving throw. And the other problem is that Searing Smite has to be done with melee attacks. Rangers can be melee based. Like I said earlier, you can be strength based as a ranger, or even wield scimitars or short swords and be a dex based ranger, but the majority of rangers use ranged attacks, and smite spells don't work on that. So, in these rare events that you are a strength based melee ranger that uses their strength to make a single attack instead of multiple attacks, Searing Smite might be as good as Hunter's Mark, assuming you're fighting an enemy with a low constitution, who's not resistant to fire damage, and who doesn't have, some water nearby. My point is that it's not a good spell. I wouldn't take it. Finally, and this is a very thematic spell for a ranger, the spell Snare. Snare is a trap spell. You use a bunch of rope and create a 5-foot space on the ground that has a magical trap. If a creature that you have not designated enters there, they make a dex save, and if they fail, they are suspended by the rope, Looney Tunes style, hanging upside down. This sounds great. The spell lasts for 8 hours, no concentration. If you trap something, you can then come by and check your traps, right? No. Unfortunately, no. The Snare spell allows the creature to make another dexterity save every single turn until they get out. A turn in D&D is 6 seconds, which means that even if they had to roll really high, if you had a high spell save DC, or they had a really low dexterity, they still, over minutes at a time, are going to get dozens of attempts to break out of this thing. Or they can make an Arcana check to, try to figure out that it's a magical trap, and that also disables it somehow. It's just much too easy to break out of the snare. That's the problem. If it was like you could make one check a minute, then it might actually be cool. That would actually be really worth it, potentially, because over several minutes, they might break out, but that gives you time to go and find them. They spring your trap. But all in all, it just doesn't work that way. Within 6, 12, 18 seconds, they're going to break out, and then it's like the spell didn't even happen. And obviously you could use it in combat, but it takes a minute to cast, and that means you have to set up the battlefield beforehand. It has to trigger, and then you attack, at which point you're just doing an ambush, and you don't need the snare's trap. It's just not worth it. Like, it doesn't do the thing you would hope it would do, which should trap a creature for a long period of time. So yeah, it doesn't sell. It doesn't deliver what it sells. And that's really the vibe with all of these spells. You would think setting people on fire, jumping really far, setting alarms, setting traps, this all sounds really cool, but these spells just don't do what they say, or they're not necessary because there are better ways to accomplish them. So these are 5 spells I think Rangers should avoid at the low levels. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more spell reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.